So, there's standard drill press here. Got our drill bit already set up. Got our plate clamped on and ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and start drilling these. And what we do is we don't drill them all the way through in the first shot. Basically go through and do a dimple. So I'm gonna go through and do a series of dimples on these things, and the dimple will be on each and every hole. And then we're going to take the plate off so we don't mess up our patterns, and then we'll actually drill through the rotor all the way through in each one. So step one, going to be firing the drill press up and coming down here and just taking and drilling each one of these holes out. So I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Not exactly probably the best thing to do, but we're just going to come in, get that lined up. We're going to do it just where we see a little bit of material come out, and then the next one. Same thing again. A little bit of material come out. All we're doing is these little tiny dimples in here. Kind of funky. I'm going to go ahead and stop right there, and I'll come back with. Alright, so got through, and we basically did all the holes we want to do. So we're going to take this off here. Set it over here to the side, and you see we now have nice little dimple holes all the way around here, all the way around the rotor. It's just a simple pattern. We're not doing anything fancy. It's just for an off-road car. We just want to add a little bit more cooling. So when you cross-roll a rotor, you actually increase the surface area of the rotor, meaning you can now have a lot more heat sink. Heat sink is important when you got brakes, because the number one byproduct of braking is heat from friction. So the cooler you can keep these things, the better off you are. Your brakes are going to work a lot better. And I'm sure some of you heard of the word brake fade. Well, brake fade is when the brakes overheat. Brakes give up, they start outgassing. And when they outgas, you lose your brakes, basically. They start going down. So now I'm going to go through, I'm going to punch all these holes all the way through. And then once they're all the way pulled through, then we're going to go do a chamfering. Now this first process took me all of maybe 5 minutes. All right, next one, be right back. It's important not to put too much pressure when you're drilling these. Just enough to let it go through. Not so much that you bind the drill bit and break it off. Take your time. Moderate pressure, about 2 or 3 pounds of pressure on the arm here. Plenty of pressure. You can see the drill through. You guys can't see it, but it's actually drilling through the other side of the rotor right now. I'll be able to feel it's just about ready to go through right there. That's the first hole drilled. Move on to the next one. Now some of you guys might want to clamp your rotors down and stuff. I'm all about just kind of holding it down as I do it. I've got the rotor elevated so I don't drill my table. Just watching the bits come out as I'm drilling it. Just giving it nice even pressure. Never too much. Give it too much, you break the drill bit off. Now we'll do the first layer, we're going to pop through the second layer here. And since watching somebody drill through steel is a lot like watching paint dry, I'm going to go ahead and stop right here, and I'll be back when we get ready to chamfer these. Alright, down to the last hole here. I'll drill it out. Drill here. So standard drill bit, sharp of course. All the extra material that comes out of here. It's always important to have a clean work area. The cleaner the work area, the better the parts come out, believe it or not. Always sweep off all your stuff. Make sure your blocks are the same size, that keeps everything nice and straight. There, that is done. Now we're going to swap over to a chamfering bit, like this one here. So It's a little bit that allows us to chamfer or bevel the edges, basically giving us a little countersink area. So this is a countersink bit. This is a 60-degree countersink bit. So we're going to countersink all these holes and give it even more surface area for cooling. What we've done is got a little spacer on here. That helps us not have to go as deep every time. We're going to set this up. Set this rotor back up here so you get holes on both sides. Come over and set up our... First thing we'll do is just kind of figure out how deep we want. Looks pretty decent, but I think we're going to tighten this up a little bit. A little bit left, a little deeper. I like that one. So once we have the depth figured out of what we want to do, in this case that's where I'm at. Set the drill press down here, and then up here we've got a little lock, if you will. So just about every drill press has a stop on it. So what I'm trying to do, in this case my wing nut is missing, so we have a little wrench for this. We're going to loosen up our stop. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take and roll this down. We're going to set it all the way down in the hole, deepest point, and then take this little piece here, and we're going to roll that over to where now 0, that's our 0 point, and we're stopped right on the 0 point. Then we're going to roll this back up for a second, tighten this up. This is the secret, having every hole be the same size chamfer every time. See, as we do this, we'll just keep getting the same holes every time. Fire it up, we're going to kind of check that first hole. That's it right there, as deep as we go. All the same every time. Okay, back up, it's still spinning on me. Down to it. Simple as that. Every time we end up having the same size hole, and by doing these champers, we actually increase the cooling of this rotor by roughly about 20%, because we're giving it so much more surface area by punching these holes through and making these large champers on there. And so we give up a little bit of the braking surface, the actual contact surface between the pad and the rotor. But what we give up in braking surface, we gain in heat dissipation. And also, if we do manage to get the brakes hot enough to want to start outgassing, or the pads start pushing gases and oils and stuff out of them, and the rotors do the same, well, now we have these nice pockets and these cross drills, which allow, cross drilling was mainly meant originally to allow those gases to escape without causing the rotors to float. So like when the gases are trying to escape the pads, they're actually causing the brake pads to hydroplane. You've ever been on the road and driving down the road and run through a puddle and you feel the car kind of get up and get loose? It's because it's hydroplaning or kind of losing contact with the traction surface, and the layer of water is getting between it. Well, in brakes, before cross-drilling, when they would start to outgas, they would actually take and cause the pad to push away from the rotor, losing your braking, or hydroplaning, so to speak. So cross-drilling originally came into effect mainly to get the gases, as the brakes got hot and racing purposes and things like that, to allow the gases to dissipate. Well, like in most of the high-performance cars you see today, Porsches and BMWs and stuff, they'll usually have a high-end rotor on there that's cross-drilled, sometimes made of an exotic material like ceramic or carbon fiber or what have you. They make a lot of different materials. They've tried a lot of different things on rotors to improve the braking and get away from overheating issues or warpage or all kinds of other things. So when we cross-drill in here, our main thing is because we're generally dealing with lightweight cars. Our big thing is just trying to get away from overheating, giving them a really cool look. But the biggest thing is just improving braking and allowing the car to perform a lot better. So we're not really worried too much about big time overheating like you would on a race car. But for street cars, it's a great setup. Gets away from, like, you run through a puddle, the water's not going to cause you to lose your brakes because the water's able to get pushed out through the holes. And, you know, there's a lot of benefits to this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these countersinks, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. So far, we've got about 15 to 20 minutes into this job. And as you can see, it's pretty quick, but I've still got to chamfer the other side of this rotor. I'm about halfway done on this side just while I'm talking to you. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this off for a second. I'm going to finish chamfering these out. I'll flip it over to the other side and I'll show you the finished product. Simple DIY tip. So basically I could probably do 2 of these rotors in about an hour of my time, meaning that cost-wise I just paid myself probably about $250 to countersink or cross-drill my own rotors. So anyhow, catch you guys in a couple minutes. Alright guys, we're just about done with our Rags to Riches rotor modification here, otherwise known aka as cross-drilling, increasing surface area for cooling, turning a basic brake rotor into a performance brake rotor for the DIY guy. We're almost done here. To show you the last few bevels to do, show you how quick you get good drill bits. Buy the ones that cost a little bit more and they're worth it. Trust me, I've been doing this for 40 years and I've used my share of inexpensive tools and I've used my share of really expensive tools, and the ones in the middle are usually just as good as the expensive ones and work just as good. So I'm going to take and kind of sweep these off. You can see that got a really nice pattern going on here. Again, we're just going to clean off these things real quick with a brush. Kind of show you what's going on here. So basically now this rotor, and again, remember to set that lock. If you don't set this lock right here, don't set that lock. Whoops, let's go here. Don't set that lock. You're going to end up with different size holes, different depths. So that lock keeps this from going any further. So you see we got nice even holes all the way around on both sides. Really simple job. So there you go. So we went from this over to that in about 25 to 30 minutes to do the rotor. So we went from a $35 rotor, $35 I think it was, to if I bought this from some of the more name brand places with the cross drills, it would have cost me roughly about $170 to $180 per rotor a lot of times for these rotors. So quick DIY for you guys. Your own garage. 35 plus. Alright guys, see you soon.